my ear's been out the entire time. That's kind of disgusting. All right, hello, welcome back. I am here with my September wrap up, and I'm also gonna go a little bit into my TBR for October, but I've decided that TBRs don't really work for me. So I'm going to start saying maybe like my top 3 or 4 books that I want to get to in a month, instead of like a full-blown TBR. I do have a full TBR that I'm going to try to do, but I think it's just easier and saves me a lot of time to just talk about a few books that I like absolutely want to read instead of 9 million books that I maybe might read. And guys, you'll be so proud of me. I actually like wrote down things so I'm not like rambling and chaotic. So the first book that I read was X's and O's by Amy Lee. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. This was really disappointing because this was one of my most anticipated releases this year. And I finally got around to reading it this month, but I just like didn't really like it. I didn't like the writing. The series is called the Influencer series, so it follows, like, this is the second book, but I didn't read the first one. It follows like this group of girls who they're all like Instagram YouTubers, influencers. Okay, cool, fun, amazing, cringy. Let me back up. So the premise of this was that she just got out of like a relationship, and she decides that she's going to go revisit her old relationships and kind of like do a post-mortem on them, see what happened, see if there's still a spark, those kind of things. And she decides to document all of this on her Bookstagram as kind of like a real like following romance tropes kind of thing, and like she wants to have a second chance romance. None of the guys that she was like doing this with like knew about that she was like documenting all of this stuff about their relationships and their like personal details online, which was just like, babe, maybe we shouldn't do that. Also, I just like really didn't like the main character. I thought she was annoying. I don't really have anything to back that up with. It was a vibe. It was a vibe, and I didn't like it. Also, it was like she ended up falling for like her roommate that she just moved in with, and I just didn't really feel it. The second book that I read was The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. This book was fine. It was fine. I don't think I'm going to continue the series, mainly because I'm just like not really interested in it. The pacing of this book was really weird. It was both like really slow, but then like all of the action happened so fast that I was like, can we just like, I don't know, do something? Like it needed to be slower in parts and faster in other parts. So this is a heist story, but the heist was not heisting in my opinion. Like multiple parts to the heist, but like it didn't feel very interesting, I guess. And like I didn't care about any of the characters really, despite there being a lot of characters. And also like this is a multi POV story, so like we follow almost all of the characters, so like every chapter is a different character's POV, which like usually I like, but I didn't care enough about any of the characters to be following all of them like that. And I think it would have been better to spend more time on like 1 or 2 characters instead of jumping around a lot. All right, the next book that I finished is In Case You Missed It by Lindsay Kelk. This is technically a romance, but it kind of reads more like women's fiction, like, but like not, I don't know. Basically this girl moves back in with her parents, and after being away for a couple years, and she sends out a text message to like all of her contacts, this like, hey, I'm back, like we should catch up, blah 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 blah. And she accidentally sends it to her ex-boyfriend, and he responds, and they start dating again. I knew from the beginning that the ex was a walking red flag. Like he didn't seem like he was terrible, but like I was just like, the vibes are off. Like I don't see this being endgame, and it wasn't. They didn't end up together, and she ends up with someone else in like the friend group, but like there wasn't a lot of time spent on their romance. It just was kind of like thrown together in the end, and like so much time was spent on her reconnecting with the ex. That's why I say it's like kind of like women's fiction and not romance, because it didn't, to me, romance needs, like the primary romance focus needs to be the end game couple, you know, like in a romance book. And that just was like was not the vibe with this. I don't think I said what I rated this. I also gave this 3 out of 5 stars. But yeah, I'm glad I read this because it's been on my shelf for literally 3 years and now I can get rid of it. Flipping the page, flipping the page. The next book that I read was Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. Okay, initially I was gonna give this 3.75 stars, but after sitting on it for a minute, I was like, that's too close to 4 stars, and it's not a 4-star book. I enjoyed this book, like while I was reading it, it was fun, but by the ending, I thought I would know more about the hotel and about the magic than I did. Again, I didn't really care about the characters. The romance was fine. I thought there was going to be something between the main character and like the main magic dude, but he turned out to just be the villain. Shocking. There were a lot of birds in this also, and I don't really understand why the birds were a thing. The next book I read was House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. I had no idea what this book was going to be like going into it, but it's a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, which just made me want to watch the Barbie 12 Dancing Princesses the entire time I was reading it. This is like a gothic fantasy. It was really good. I didn't know how it was going to end like the entire time, and the ending was wild. It wasn't what I was expecting, but it was kind of what I was expecting. But like, I had a lot of theories, and a lot of different parts of my theories were correct, but a lot of parts were wrong. My notes say the youngest sister, creepy. Her name is Verity, which, if you know, you know. She was just like, there was one part where she was like, I am the curse, because like they think the family's cursed because like all of the sisters keep dying and the mom died. And she's like, the curse started with me because their mom died like giving birth to her. I was like, honestly, sis, I think you're right. I mean, she was so creepy. Like, she just was saying the most out-of-pocket shit the entire time. Cassius is the love interest of the main girl. He was sketchy until he wasn't sketchy. I really enjoyed that. I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. Good book. Good gothic vibes. Good for the autumn season. The next book I read was Wild at Heart by K.A. Tucker. Now this is where I abandoned my TBR. There are no more books that I had on my September TBR on this list. Oh, that's a lie. Well, we'll get into that. I read The Simple While back in August, and that was the first book I've given 5 stars, and that's not a reread in quite a while. I didn't like this quite as much as the first book, but I really did enjoy it because, number one, I love Callan and Jonah so much, and the setting is amazing. Like, it makes me want to go live in Alaska, but like, I would not thrive there. That would be bad. Hello, it's Editing Amanda here. I just did not like how I said this. I did not say it how I meant it. What I meant here is this book felt like a realistic way that 2 people from different walks of life would combine their lives and make it work. I feel like they both compromised on things. Maybe Calla more than Jonah, but I don't think it was necessarily bad for her because she didn't seem like she was like could go back to how her life was after like spending that time with her father and with Jonah. So I think it was better for both. I think that it was a good look into what makes a relationship work and how you have to compromise and things like that, because you know, and like I know obviously that romance books are fiction and like who really cares, but like, you know, sometimes you read a book and they've both like given up things or whatever to be together, and then you're like, well, how long is that realistically gonna last? Like, I feel like this was more like the fallout of their choices, but like not in a negative way, you know? Anyway, that's all. Then I reread Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in the Chestnut Springs series, and this is actually the first one that I read of these books. And I love it. I guess 4 out of 5 stars. There's something about the single dad trope that just gets me every damn time. And I just love it. I love Cade. I love that man. I'd marry that man. I would. After Heartless, I decided to go. I wasn't sure if I was interested in the rest of the Chestnut Springs series, But after rereading it, I decided like, yeah, I am. So I went back and I read Flawless, which is the first book. And I didn't like this quite as much as Heartless. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. The thing is, Rhett didn't feel like he matched up to how he was portrayed in the second book, which I know like it's a little different because like his outward persona isn't necessarily like his internal monologue or whatever, which like we get his point of view in Flawless, but it just like it felt like a very big difference. So I didn't love that, but I did love this story. It was really good. I loved Rhett and Summer together. Then I read Contractual Obligations by Elle Rivers. I gave this book 1 star. I really did not like it. Great concept, not good execution. The writing wasn't good, like the pacing was weird. Okay, so the premise of this is his dad wants to buy out her dad's company, but her dad's made such like a stink about this family having a monopoly over like this industry that he was like not gonna sell. But then he like realized like, oh shit, like I'm gonna be bankrupt. Like, so they come up with like this plot to like get their kids married and like make it like this, they fell in love and like, so we're like bearing all of like our issues and blah, 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 blah. So they have like a 5-year term like contract for their marriage, and this is year 4. And they pick up and move to Nashville from Los Angeles. Now, one of my biggest issues with this was the way that she talked about Nashville. She was like, Nashville, this like podunk town, like it's so small. Have you been to Nashville? Like, is it as big as LA? No, definitely not. But like, it's not a minuscule little town. But anyway, they end up falling in love the last year of their marriage. And I think one of the things that bothered me the most was just like the way they talked to each other. It didn't feel like natural human speech. Those are all the books that I completed in September. I did start 2 more books, and I'm gonna talk about one of them because I read the majority of it in September, but I finished it in October. But I need to talk about while it's fresh in my brain, and that is Night Film by Marisha Pessl. So this one actually was on my September TBR, and I started it mid-September, but then I decided that I could not read that before bed. That's when I started picking up the romances. So I read the romances before bed and then the thriller the rest of the time. But it took me quite a while because this book was 850 pages. And I did not know that going into it. I had picked this out and Goodreads had said it was like 600 and something. And I was like, okay, whatever. But then the Kindle version that I had was over 800 pages. It could have been about 400 pages shorter, and it probably would have been better for it. I also gave this book 1 star, which I have not really given that many 1 stars out this year. So 2 in 1 month. Yikes. No, so like this was just so slow. There was one chapter, so I was reading on my Kindle, and you know the Kindle like tells you how long you have left in a chapter. I get to this chapter, 1 hour and 54 minutes is what it says. Ridiculous. And it was like an acid trip reading that chapter. It was the weirdest thing. I still don't know what happened. It was too much. And then the book just like continues after that. There's still like 200 pages left in the book like after that, and then you get to the end, and I cannot believe that I read 830 pages for that ending. So those are the books that I read in the month of September. So now I'm gonna get into a few books that I definitely want to read in the month of October. The first is Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. Please ignore the fact that I still have a sticker on this. This is the sequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I read the first one last year and I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I had no idea what was gonna happen the entire time. Like any of the theories that Pippa had, I was like, amazing. Like this could happen, this could be it. And then what did happen? Crazy, like absolutely insane. So I think this one, now she has a podcast about the murder that they solved in the first one. And then someone disappears and they track that person down. Okay, the second book I want to read in October is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. My sister has been on me to read this book for the past like year. I think she read it like last October. And I just haven't done it because I just haven't been in the mood, but we're gonna do it now. It takes place at a wedding. It's a thriller. I don't know anything about this, but something happens. Maybe someone dies. Someone probably dies. But anyway, that's all I got on that one. The last book that I definitely want to read in the month of October is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I feel like this is a good one to read. I mean, any of the Harry Potter books is good for like spooky season, just because it's a vibe. But I feel like this is like a really good one to read during the month of October, just because of like everything that happens in it. So y'all know it's Harry Potter. There's like nothing else to say about it. Alrighty, that is all the books I read in September and 3 books that I hope to get to in the month of October. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again soon. Bye.